Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we're about to dive into something that Cardinals fans really don't want to hear but desperately need to understand. Today, we're talking about Nolan Arenado, one of the best third basemen of this generation, and how the St. Louis Cardinals are absolutely squandering what's left of his elite years. This is going to upset some people, but sometimes the truth hurts. So let's get into it. Nolan Arenado is 34 years old right now. Let that sink in for a second. 34. This is a guy who should be competing for championships, who should be in the thick of October baseball every single year, making highlight reel plays and coming up clutch in big moments. Instead, he's watching other teams celebrate while the Cardinals can't even put together a roster that sniffs the playoffs. And before any of you come at me in the comments saying I'm being too harsh, let me lay out exactly why this is happening and why it's getting worse, not better. When the Cardinals traded for Arenado before the 2021 season, everyone thought this was the move that would keep St. Louis in contention for years. You're adding a perennial Gold Glover, a guy who was crushing 30-plus home runs annually, someone with that killer instinct in big games. The Rockies were paying down a chunk of his contract. The Cardinals gave up minimal prospect capital, and suddenly you had this core of Arenado, Goldschmidt, and what was supposed to be a supporting cast good enough to win the division every year. That was the plan. That was what ownership sold to the fans when they made this deal. Fast forward to right now, January 2026, and what do we have? We have a team that missed the playoffs, again, with no clear direction forward. We have an offense that can't score runs consistently. We have a pitching staff held together with duct tape and prayers. And most importantly, we have Nolan Arenado, who put up another solid season, playing incredible defense like he always does. And it meant absolutely nothing because the team around him is mediocre at best and getting worse by the day. Here's what really gets me fired up about this situation. Arenado didn't have to be here. He had a no-trade clause. He chose St. Louis because he wanted to win, because the Cardinals sold him on being a competitive team, on having that championship culture, on being the organization that does things the right way. They convinced him that coming to St. Louis meant he'd have a legitimate shot at a World Series ring. And what have they given him in return? Broken promises and wasted seasons. That's it. That's the return on investment for a player who gave up Colorado to come chase a championship. Let me break down exactly how they're wasting him, because it's not just one thing, it's a complete organizational failure on multiple levels. First, look at the roster construction around him. Paul Goldschmidt is declining, and everyone can see it. His numbers have dropped off significantly, and while he's still a solid player, he's not the MVP caliber first baseman he was a few years ago. That's not a knock on Goldie, that's just father time, but the problem is the Cardinals haven't done anything to compensate for that decline. They haven't added another middle-of-the-order bat. They haven't brought in protection around Arenado. They've just let the offense get older and weaker and hope for the best. The pitching situation is somehow even worse. When you have a player like Arenado, you need pitching. You need guys who can go out there and give you 6 or 7 quality innings so your defense can work, and so you're not asking your offense to score 8 runs every single night just to have a chance. What do the Cardinals have right now? They've got question marks throughout the entire rotation. They've got a bullpen that implodes at the worst possible times. They've let homegrown talent walk out the door because they didn't want to pay them, and then they've replaced those guys with bargain bin pickups and reclamation projects that don't pan out. And here's the thing that should infuriate every Cardinals fan watching this video. The front office acts like they're in some kind of small market purgatory where they can't possibly compete with the big spenders. Except that's complete garbage. The St. Louis Cardinals are one of the most profitable franchises in all of baseball. They print money. The fan base shows up year after year, buying tickets, buying merchandise, filling that stadium even when the team is mediocre. The revenue is there, the resources are there. What's missing is the willingness to actually use those resources to build a championship roster. Other teams in the National League are getting better. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. They're always going to spend and compete. The Braves have built a juggernaut through smart drafting and player development. The Phillies went out and made aggressive moves to build around their core. The Padres, even with their financial issues, took massive swings trying to win. And what are the Cardinals doing? They're running it back with the same flawed roster, making minor tweaks around the edges and expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. Arenado's window is closing fast. At 34, he's probably got 2, maybe 3 more years of being an elite level player. After that, even with his incredible work ethic and his defensive prowess, age catches up to everyone. Baseball is a young man's game, and the Cardinals are burning through what little time they have left with him. Every year they waste is a year they can never get back. Every season that ends without a playoff berth is another year closer to Arenado retiring without the championship ring he came to St. Louis to win. What makes this even more frustrating is that Arenado has done everything right. He's been a model professional. He's played through injuries. He's been a leader in the clubhouse. He's put up consistent numbers year after year. He's given the Cardinals everything they could have asked for from a player standpoint, and they've given him nothing in return except disappointment. That's not hyperbole. That's just the reality of the situation. When you look at what he's contributed versus what the organization has done to support him, it's not even close. The front office will make excuses. They'll talk about financial flexibility. They'll mention the farm system. They'll point to young players who might develop into stars someday. But Arenado doesn't have time for someday. He doesn't have time to wait for Jordan Walker to figure it out, or for Mason Wynn to become a superstar, or for whatever pitching prospect they're hyping this week to actually pan out. He needs help now. He needs the Cardinals to go out and make the kind of moves that contending teams make. Sign the free agent, make the blockbuster trade, do something, anything that shows you're actually trying to win while you still have an elite player in his prime. And look, I know some of you are going to say I'm being too negative, that I should have more faith in the organization, that the Cardinals will figure it out, but we're past the point of blind faith. We've seen this movie before. We've watched them stand pat at trade deadlines when they should have been buyers. We've watched them lowball their own players in contract negotiations. We've watched them prioritize profit margins over winning championships. At some point, you have to call it what it is. This is an organization that's content with being good enough to sell tickets, but not good enough to actually win anything meaningful. Nolan Arenado deserves better than this. He deserves to be playing in October. He deserves to have a legitimate chance at a World Series. And Cardinals fans deserve better too. You deserve an ownership group and a front office that's willing to do whatever it takes to win, not just whatever it takes to maintain a healthy balance sheet. The clock is ticking, and every day that passes without meaningful action is another day wasted in what should be a championship window. That's the reality, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. Thanks for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.